Hello and welcome back to Something Borrowed Blue Ridge. You are listening to episode number 5 of the podcast, and today we have Amy and Ben. They are a fantastic couple that are from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm really excited to have them on the podcast, especially because this wedding in particular I heard about from a guest perspective before I actually got to talk to Amy and Ben. So I am really excited for you to listen and hear all about their wedding day. This is episode 5. I am so excited that we are now 5 weddings in to the podcast, and I cannot wait to have many, many more to share with you all. Today's episode is so special, and I have listened to it many times as I've been editing and recording, and I cannot wait for you all to hear all about their very special and intentional day that they created together. So let's go ahead and jump on in. Welcome to Something Borrowed Blue Ridge, a space where brides and grooms share all about their big day and all the details that made their day so unforgettable. I'm Sarah, your host, and I want to let you know that you can take Something Borrowed Blue Ridge on the go through any podcasting service or watch our podcast to see all the pictures, details, and beautiful moments of our couple's days on our YouTube channel. I'm so glad you are here, and I cannot wait for the conversations to begin. Let's get started. Today on the podcast, I'm so excited to have Amy and Ben here with me, and we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being on the show.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So we'll go ahead and jump in on our first question. And let's go ahead and talk about a little bit actually before that question. But how did we come to getting to know each other? Like, how are you here on the show? Tell me a little bit about our connection.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So one of my best friends in the world, Kelly, who is a teacher in North Carolina, turned me on to your podcast. Actually, I think before we even really had a plan in place for our own wedding. And she just mentioned, like, you might want to talk with us about our day. And I was like, so excited. And that turned me on to your podcast. And I started listening to the episodes and just hearing this like really positive flow that you have going on. And that's a part of the wedding space that I'm like happy to be a part of. So I was really excited to connect with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, and our friend, we have to give a shout out to our friend Kelly because really she brought us all together, and I have gotten to hear about y'all's wedding from a very different perspective because she was in attendance at your wedding. We're going to talk all about it. But I'm so excited that you're here, and we'll go ahead and jump into our first question. So tell me, how did you two meet?
So the good old fashioned way, online. We were, I think, both kind of looking for love. We were using OkCupid for what it's worth. I took a chance and went into the search function, which is like no person's land. And Amy's face showed up. I read her profile. I really liked what I saw there, and I was like, there's no chance, but like I might as well just send a message. Worst thing is like no response or whatever. And then got a response and started a back and forth, and here we are.
5 years later.
Online dating is one of those like weird things where it's like a lot of disappointment on both sides, men and women. Whoever you might be online dating, you're going to experience a lot of like bad stuff or undesirable stuff, but all it takes is one. And so it's like, just kind of like keep going, and sometimes you land the one.
That's so awesome. Oh, that is so sweet. So y'all have been together for, I heard you say 5 years. So how long were you like dating before like proposal happened? Sort of tell me like that part of your story, because it sounds like you met online and got to know each other. Tell me about that part.
Yeah, we fast tracked a lot of things, I think. We were dating about 3 months before we decided to move in together. And we moved in together probably after 6 months. Lived together, well, since then. How long did we date before you proposed?
Well, it was weird. I had a particular way I wanted to propose, and then COVID happened. And so, we were really open about it. I strongly believe that the proposal itself should not be a surprise, but the method of proposing can be a surprise. And, I like surprises. So I think that it was pretty obvious to us, like we were having these conversations about like, what do you think kind of thing. And then I was just open about like, there's a way I want to do it and it's not possible during COVID. So we might just have to wait a while until the world opens back up, assuming that it would.
Yeah, and I was good with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love that like open communication that y'all had with each other. And I've never even heard that phrase before about like, maybe that's just something you came up with about, like the proposal itself doesn't need to be a surprise, but the method of it can be. And that's so true. Because I feel like that sometimes is a hard thing for couples to like do because, maybe sometimes brides or girls, they don't want to talk about it because it's like, oh, I don't want to ruin it, but like you also want to know sort of where things are going. And so I just love the way you just put that. I feel like that's just a perfect way of saying like, hey, like we want to be on the same page.
Yeah, there's just no good can come of ambushing somebody with a question that they're not expecting and will definitely change their life. Like,
yes, that's so true. And so now I need to hear about this proposal. So tell me, how did the proposal happen?
So probably on our third date, we were at a restaurant in Chicago, sushi restaurant, and we started talking about lists, all sorts of lists, right? Places you want to go, things you want to do, bucket lists. And right at the very top of Amy's bucket list was a hot air balloon ride. And at that moment, I was like, because it was also something that I really wanted to do. And so that felt epic enough for me. Yeah, so that was kind of the seed. And then fast forward several years later, I battled the weather to make a reservation, and I managed to find a hot air balloon company, which is really just a guy and like his wife out of their like backyard. But it was also Amy's from Ohio, and so it was in northern Ohio, just kind of right around the area that she used to tour with her high school band.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was like really cool to see like her homeland from a different perspective. And so one day I, told her to a few days, yeah, that's right. It's because one time I made the appointment and then it turned out to be too windy. It's like for hot air balloons, because you travel with the wind, it's like it has to be no more than a few miles an hour. And it was like getting towards the end of fall, so it was also starting to be a bit cold. But we managed to snag like the last day. Told Amy to get in the car. And,
there were a couple of times where he was like, "Look cute and be ready to go," and I was like, "What do you mean?" And we had already designed the ring together, so I knew it was like whenever he was ready to do it, we were gonna go. But yeah, got the nails done, do it like you do. I was thankful for the heads up that I should look cute. I was like, okay, we can do that. We got in the car, we drove 4 hours. I had no idea where we were going. And we pull up to this house in the middle of random Ohio, like north of Columbus. And this husband and wife team come out and they have hoodies on with a little like logo that has a hot air balloon in it. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I know what's going on. It was very cool. We got to blow up the balloon with them. It almost took off without us. Like I was in the basket and then just got in before we shot up. It was crazy. And we had this beautiful sail at sunset over the fields in Ohio, and it was really cool.
so we're in the air and we're driving, and the husband knows what's up, and so does his wife, but Amy doesn't know exactly what's going on. I'm sure Amy, Amy's a very intelligent woman. She knows what's actually going to happen, but not how. And so now we pause and we actually go back several months before this date. And Amy had gone to visit her sisters in Seattle, which meant I had the house to myself. And it was a perfect time to create the actual proposal, which was a 9 by 16 foot sign that like I spread out in the backyard, and like I stitched together like canvas and stuff, and I made stencils out of everything, and I spray painted will you marry me, or marry me Motek, which is kind of our nickname. And yeah, so and I hid that thing, this like folded sheet, in
my car.
in Amy's car for like months.
I had no idea.
It was in like the tire well under the in the back.
So that when the weather was right, we could just go.
So we could just go, and she wouldn't see me like carrying something into the car. So before we took off, because I had coordinated all this with the guy, Amy had gone into their house for a moment to sign some documents or whatever, and I put the sign in his wife's car, and they were going to follow us and like post up somewhere along the route and spread out this thing so that we could see it from like whatever 100 feet up or whatever, 300 feet up.
The wind just carries you, right? You can't steer.
Yeah.
So they're trying to estimate how to get ahead of us to lay out this huge sign.
Yeah, it's like enormous.
So we float over it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was so cool.
Yeah, so they managed, they pulled it off, wife got there with her son, and they like unfurled it, and like we're floating along, and I'm like, oh, what's that?
Oh my goodness. That is the most amazing proposal story.
It was cool.
It was super fun to do. Yeah, it was super fun. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like, wow. That was a story. Like, there were so many moving pieces. Like, Ben, that's impressive. Like, getting all of those things together and making a huge sign and getting it to the right place. Like, I'm just imagining in my head all of the planning that goes into this. And I'm like, wow. Like, that's amazing. I mean, and a hot air balloon. I've never been on a hot air balloon, but I've always like imagined they're just like this magical place that you're in. So, and the fact that I think the thing that I love the most was that this is something that you had talked about at the very beginning of your relationship, and then you're bringing it back and, just sort of like bringing that chapter to this new chapter together. And I just love that. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's so cool. So how long, so after, so you said yes, celebrated, I'm sure. So then after that, like, how long were we engaged? Like, what was your planning process sort of like? Did you hit the ground running, or were you enjoying the like engagement phase? How did that go?
Yeah, was really excited to be engaged and not really excited to dive into planning. I think in January we received a save the date for a wedding that was like after ours, and I was like, oh, we better get going. But from engagement to, this is gonna be confusing, but our legal wedding, when we actually got legally married, was 7 months. And then engagement to our actual celebration wedding was 9, 10. Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know, engagement's nice, but I was like, let's go. Like,
yeah.
When you're in your mid-30s and you know what you want, it's like, execute, right?
Yeah.
Let's go.
And I think also the fact that we were basically on the same, like it was mostly just a formality, like the proposal thing. So we had been like, in my mind, I'm sure also in your mind, like engaged for all of COVID, basically.
Sharing finances, bought a house together. Like, once you buy a house together, you're married, whether you think you are or not.
It is a bigger problem to get out of a mortgage than it is out of a marriage certificate.
For sure.
So from engagement to legal marriage was 7 months, and we did what's called like a Quaker ceremony. It's a self-uniting ceremony where you don't need an officiant. You just get your paperwork from the court system, and your ceremony can look however you want it to, but you just sort of agree and you sign the papers, and that's it. So we met up. I don't know. We went to a park right along the river here in Pittsburgh, and we had a photographer with us. And
No, it was cooler than that. Excuse me.
it was awesome.
No. Stop. Listen. My company, not my company, the company I work for was throwing their annual party. It's like big party, like outdoors, stage, whatever, performance. And so it so happens that it fell on the day that we wanted to get married on. And so from our perspective, it just so happens that the company I work for was so kind as to throw us
a reception.
A reception. So we went to the party, had a drink, got in a lift or whatever, went to the spot, met our photographer, took a bunch of photos, got married, and then got in the lift, went back to the party, and just celebrated the rest of the night.
And Carly Rae Jepsen was our headliner at that reception.
That's amazing. Oh my God. Wow.
Super fun, yeah.
Yeah, it was just really cool to have that like intimate sort of private moment to like really make it official. And then it's like, the wedding storm can come and take whatever shape it needs to, and we're just gonna be like united. Like that's just what it was for us. So it was really sweet, and the vows were great. It was private and beautiful that day, and we just had a great time.
That's amazing. I love that. And I did not know that part of your story either. So that's really cool. And I love that you took the time to just be with each other, just the two of you. And even though you got the cool party afterwards, but I mean, that's just really special. I haven't heard of many people doing that, but I think that that's something that makes it extra unique and special for sure. So tell me about, then we go to where?
Yeah. So the idea was not only that this was going to be a really intimate moment, but also apparently there's a lot of stress around weddings. I don't know if you knew that, Sarah. Yeah, maybe your viewers are not particularly aware of this, but actually doing the thing, right? Standing there, everyone's looking at you, going through the motions, can be very anxiety producing. And so one of the ways that we thought to diffuse that sort of, tension bomb is to already be married by the time we stand there and say our vows and kind of wedding dress moment. So it served a couple of purposes, I think, and it's actually a really nice trick, at least for us, that you can, first of all, nobody necessarily has to know, from everyone else's perspective, wedding dress wedding is usually what they consider the thing. That at nowhere does it say that actually has to be the official legal moment, and so you can have kind of your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, and it takes the edge off. It really does.
Yeah.
Because then you're just, on wedding dress day, you're just having a great time, and whatever happens happens.
Yeah. Okay, so we are already married, self-uniting ceremony. There was actually, and then there is the Barcelona wedding. Which is the wedding dress wedding. And
so we were already in the planning phases by then.
Yeah.
So timeline would be engagement November, January. I realize I need to start planning. We booked a date for September, and then in June is when we did our actual legal ceremony.
Right.
That's awesome. Wow. And so you're planning, and you mentioned Barcelona. So for any of my viewers who haven't caught on yet that there is that there is a special feature and a little bit more of a challenge, I'd say, in planning your wedding. It was in Barcelona. So talking about planning a wedding in a whole different country. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So my family is in the Midwest, and Ben's family is in Israel. So we were looking for a way to bring together these groups of people that we love on neutral territory, right? Let's bring everyone sort of out and to a city that I don't think anyone had ever been to, because how do you bond with people? You travel together. So that was our motivation.
It was post-COVID, so a lot of people had not been able to, travel a lot, and the levels were safe, and we provided all the testing that would be needed.
But flight prices hadn't gone up yet, so we were let's do it.
So we did okay, what's it called? A Final Four? No.
Oh,
Is
like
that a
we
thing?
did a bracket of
We did
like
a
all these
bracket.
places in Europe where we could possibly have a wedding,
Yeah.
and we had them knock each other out, and we narrowed it down.
Yeah, so like what we cared about is weather, you know, it's not too hot, not too cold, that kind of thing.
Enough to do
Enough to
because we have
do.
so many different tastes and preferences. We want
Yeah.
everyone to be like, this is a place for me.
So each week, each of us would have like our destinations and we'd research them and then we'd be like, what about this? And look at all the things you can do. And then
Make a PowerPoint.
and then, you know, we'd rule one out and then we got down to, I think it was probably Portugal or Spain.
Yeah, or the south of France. Those were our last three. And when we looked at what there was to do in Barcelona, it was done. Like we had never been there. So we were like, let's plan a wedding in a place we've never been. And like, what a cool memory to have of a new city. So that's how we landed there. We also were checking like flight prices for everybody and making sure the journey wasn't too bad to get there. Because we had a very small guest list. We had 22 maybe, and 22 so we wanted all 22 to be there. So we made sure to accommodate as much as we could. So yeah, just we love to travel, and we thought, you know, why not take our wedding fund and put it toward a trip as well, kind of do two in one.
That's amazing. I mean, wow. I love how, first of all, the bracket. Wow. That's a great way to do things. It's funny that you say that because my husband and I, when we're trying to pick a restaurant, we'll list out all the potential restaurants and we do the same thing. Like we knock out each other's. So who would have thought to do that about your location? But I mean, that's a great way to do it. And I love how you were also thinking about like, what could we do? Because you're traveling to this place and you're wanting to make these special memories with all of these people that you love in a new space for all of you. And choosing somewhere that you all had never been, which brings us challenges. Like I can say as a former bride, I would have been like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to plan a whole wedding in another place that I've never been with all of that? So I think taking on that challenge, but also knowing that you were going to create these like lifelong memories in a place that was brand new to both of you was really special. So that's really cool. So how did you plan your wedding in a whole nother place? How did you actually do that?
Luckily I speak Spanish. So all of the vendors I met over Zoom. But the cool thing about planning in a country I've never been to is like, you know, you have to release some control. You have to. Like, you just can't do everything. So
there are no contracts.
There are none.
It's a handshake.
It's a little concerning.
Like Zoom handshake. Like you'll be there, right? They're like, yeah, we'll be there. You're like, I'm gonna send you money, and they're like, yeah, we'll be there. It's fine.
It was madness. Yeah. But like, I couldn't worry about like where we were gonna do our dinner. We couldn't do a tasting. I couldn't see the venue. I couldn't do a walkthrough. I couldn't make sure our transportation was going to show up. I hoped hair and makeup was going to work out. You know, it's like all I can do is use Google to the fullest and use my broken Spanish and like hope for the best. And everything else was just like, I can't worry about it because there's nothing I can do. So that was a big relief to me, who, you know, at the time I wasn't working. I was taking a year off of work and I could have really like spiraled deep into wedding planning, and I didn't want to. Like, I wanted to stay surface level, wanted to stay focused on what mattered, which is like who was going to be there, and like just let all the rest of it go. And so it saved me from myself in many ways.
Yeah, I think that there was also a big part of it was scoping down the wedding initially. So, you know, a wedding is probably like any large event. Like, you can double click on as many levels as you want and you can get to like, what is the frill on the napkin and what color will it be and how much will it protrude into the napkin, right? There is as much detail as you want. So, you know, we had this saying of like, it's just 7 things. Like that's all you need for a wedding, right? It's like a place to stay, place to get married, like the food, transportation, right? Officiant, some music, like basically you're done, right? A dress, yeah. So it's like keeping this in mind of like, we're not going to double click too much. Like, we're not going to care about the tableware. We're not going to care about the flowers. We're not going to care about these things, because it's like, that's not what our trip was about. Totally cool if that's the kind of wedding that a person wants to plan. Like, great, knock yourself out. For us, it was like, the destination is the thing, the people are the thing, and we just need enough stuff to make things run. And so, that also was a way for us to sort of navigate this, like doing it long distance basically, and remote and all that stuff. We just needed 7 things, and we got those 7 things. And then, it's never actually 7 things. It's like 17 things. But all of those extra bits, like, are nested, right? It's like, what time should the bus come? And should it be a party bus? Should it be a regular bus? Like, fine, details. But it's like, you just need like 7 things. It's fine.
Yeah, I love that like mindset that you both had of just like, we are getting married, we are having this wonderful time with the people that we love and that want to be there, and we're keeping it simple. Like, I mean, like you said, like, you can get so much into the details, like, oh my goodness, you can. And some people do, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I like that you both stuck with that value that you had of like, these are the things that we value. This is what we want in our day. And that's what we're going to do. And and you can see it so clearly through all of your pictures, and we're getting ready to talk about it. I'm so excited. So let me go ahead, and if y'all are okay with that, we're going to transition into looking at some pictures. So tell me about this first picture.
Okay, so this is a photo from Park Güell overlooking a huge park in Barcelona proper that is designed by Antoni Gaudí. And his work is everywhere in Barcelona, and this is very characteristic of his work. This like a little bit chaotic tile mosaics. He plays around with a lot of like curves and really weird architecture that doesn't look like it should be still standing. But really, it'll stop you in your tracks when you see some of the stuff that he's created. And so I thought, if we're gonna do Barcelona, like, let's lean into this artist that is so iconic in Barcelona and try and bring in some of this mosaic tile, which you'll see in our wedding peak.
Yes.
Later on, I think.
Yeah, it is. I noticed that that you could really see all those colors, and just I immediately saw like, oh, that inspiration picture goes right with their cake. So we'll definitely talk about that when we get there. But this view also, like, I just didn't know much about Barcelona, like just in general. And when Kelly told me that she was going to Barcelona for a wedding, I was like, what? And I started like Googling and looking at Barcelona, and like, this is one of the pictures that you see of just like the beauty of the city that I didn't know anything about. So yeah, this
awesome.
Yeah, super.
Highly recommend. 10 out of 10.
I have to put it on my list. I've heard so many good things.
No doubt.
Okay, so our next two, tell me about these pictures.
Okay, so inspiration pictures were a sort of backwards mapping for me. We knew that we wanted to have about 22 people at our wedding, and we knew that we wanted them all to stay in a big house. And we had 10 days with them. And we just wanted like every opportunity for people to get to know each other and bond before we actually did the thing. So we looked at several villas, but it's a little tricky to find one that will sleep 22 people. So I was really excited when we landed on this location. So this is like a 16-bedroom villa, like just north of Barcelona. Crazy. It's like 4 stories and 3 kitchens and this beautiful courtyard right in the middle, and it's super private, and it's got all this greenery, and blue Spanish tile is just sort of iconic, and you see it sort of all over the place. So I thought, like, that's gonna be where we do our ceremony. That's a done deal. Like, I love the blue, and what a cool way to like get married, in where everyone is staying. Nobody was late. Nobody got lost.
And that's 2 of the 7 right there, all in one.
All in one.
Place to stay, place to get married, right there. Boom.
Yeah.
It was functionally free, basically.
Yeah.
Well, we paid.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so we took care of the villa as our venue, and everyone got to stay there free of charge. We were like, we just want you there. We don't want any barriers to you coming here. It's really important. And so what we did was we took this blue Spanish tile and we put it on everything, like every, printable and every sign and every little, like guest plate games at one point. All of our table numbers like had this blue Spanish tile. So this really, I just looked at like what we had and went with it.
That's awesome. And I just love that you took the inspiration of the place that you're going to be. First of all, you once again focused on like what was most important to you, which was having everybody together. And then you found this wonderful space that also had all of this other elements within it that also checked off 2 of your 7. So you got really like just this all-in-one perfect spot. And like what a like beautiful space. I mean, I love the greenery and the natural light that you see, and definitely the blue tile. Like I noticed that, and it even tied back into the previous picture of like the blue. I was like, oh, okay, like here we go. We've got like the blue theme going on within it. So I love that you could tie all of those pieces together, and it's just a beautiful space. Absolutely. For sure. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my next one, and I want to hear all about this. So tell me what I've seen.
Let me tell you about that. No.
So I get really into wedding dresses. I was very excited to choose one. This is like the one piece I was like very excited about. I was like, oh my gosh, we're not doing this without the dress. So but I was looking for ways to do a custom gown without the custom gown price tag. So one of the vendors that I will shout out is
I'm sorry, I don't know if you, Sarah, if you or your viewers know, but wedding dresses are expensive. They're not cheap. Turns out, who would have thought?
I would have thought.
Ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Out of control. So I found this great secondhand. They do like prom dresses, and they happen to have a wedding section where they buy up sample dresses and then sell them for $500 or less. And I was like, I'm going. I'm there right now. So I found this gown designed by David Tutera, who I love. And I loved the blush. It matches my ring. I was like, yes to all. I needed a big train. I was all about it. But the back was really funky, and I wasn't crazy about the sleeve or the straps. So I was like, well, here's the opportunity. Like I have this start of a gown, but I need to make it my own. I need to change it around. So I went to 3 different seamstresses here in Pittsburgh. One was like, what you want can't be done. The second was like, I can do it, but it'll cost you. And the third was like, yeah, I can do all of that. And it was a very reasonable price. And she worked with me for 6 months on this dress to get it just right. And she's incredible. And I will shout her out all day.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest learnings I think that we had from this experience is, this is not life changing. You don't have to get your notepad out or whatever, but like shop around, because the prices vary like to the tune of an order of magnitude. Like somebody could tell you like $2,000 to do a thing, like modify a dress, and another person will say like, yeah, I could do that for like $350, right? And it's like literally you got to just check the field. Somebody she went to said, if you can find somebody to do what you want, pay them any amount of money they will ask, right? And then like the next person was like, I don't know, is $350 too much?
I was like, we're good.
Yeah, I think I can swing that. Yeah. So it's like mortgages, right? It's just like shop around, because you would be shocked to see the variance in prices, and like it is possible to find what we would consider a reasonable price for a lot of these things.
Yeah, I wound up, my entire bridal look cost less than what this gown would have cost if I bought it new.
Wow.
I was like, this we're being scammed.
It is. It's a straight scam. It's unbelievable.
There are ways around it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I feel like that's a hard thing for people to do sometimes, especially in the wedding industry. Cause like once you're like planning a wedding, it's like everyone's like, go, 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 go. And so you want to like get these things booked as quick as possible or get these things done as quick as possible. But in reality, like you do have some time and you do have some space and like you can go and look and see and definitely don't be afraid to like walk away from, you know, a price and say like, I'm going to go check out, you know, a couple of other places. We'll get back to you, because a lot of times you can find, you know, better deals or better, just like individuals. And when it comes to like vendors too, you want to make sure it's someone you can connect with and someone that you work well with. Cause I mean, gosh, you were working with her for 6 months, like that's a ton of time that you're spending with somebody. So you want to make sure it's somebody that you feel like confident in and that like you feel good about too, for sure. So that's such a good point though, because definitely it does feel like sometimes we're getting scammed a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh, with the weddings, because they can just get so crazy in prices.
Really, very quickly it spirals out of control.
Yeah. And honestly, if you shop around and everybody's coming back with the same price, well then you know this is the reality, and that's what we should expect to pay.
For sure. Yeah. Because for some things it definitely is. Like it just is, oh, okay, this is what it is. But definitely not a bad idea to look around and see what you can find. For sure. And so then you said your blush and it goes with your ring. And I know we've got an inspiration picture for your ring here. So tell me about it.
I'm a little embarrassed, but that's Blake Lively.
And not be embarrassed.
It is what it is. I came across it and it just it's so soft and romantic and light and airy. And I'm not a diamond person. But I tend to think about our relationship as like still being in like the first blush, you know, like things are just easy between us. And so I wanted that blush to kind of come through on the day. And so I did it with the ring and the dress and the flowers. And I've never really communicated that to anyone, but that was kind of from inside something that just manifested in an interesting way. So, but yeah, the ring story is interesting. Where did we find the stone?
You found it on like Etsy or something. It was like a big chunk.
I know. Okay, so we found a chunk of paparazzi sapphire that looked like maybe it would just be the right color pink, because I didn't want anything to smack you in the face. I wanted it to be really, really light. And then I found a gem cutter on Instagram and designed the cut, and she cut it for me, mailed it to me, and then designed the band with me here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So
to a local jeweler.
Yeah. So totally from scratch, like weirdly pieced together to kind of make this vision come true. But that was sort of the jumping off point, the inspiration.
That's really special. And, you know, even you saying that, you know, like this had an inspiration, like that you had this feeling of like, hey, this is like the first blush. This is like how I feel about us and our relationship and where we are. Like I just love that you communicated all of that through all of your details and just really like being intentional about each of those pieces and designing your ring in such a unique way. I mean, I think all of the things that you've done so far have been just so unique in finding what you're really wanting. And I think that's a really good takeaway from wedding planning is, you know, always don't be afraid to break things down, put things back together, because you can totally do what you want to do. So I love that for sure. And now I think we're ready to jump into your pictures. Oh my gosh, I could look at them for hours. Seriously, I was just like gasping in awe when I saw them. So let's go ahead and jump into the very first one. So tell me about this picture.
Oh my God. I told my photographers, I'm like, listen, I need one photo. And this is it.
Yeah.
If all the other ones don't work out, let's get this one.
Yeah, there's so much happening in this photo, actually. So you see everyone sitting outside, but up until probably 20 minutes before the wedding, we were expecting rain. So all those chairs were inside, like where the photographer is standing right now. And then in the last minute, Amy's like, actually tapped Kelly.
No. So photographer comes up hair and makeup is done. I'm ready to get my dress on. She's like, it's not going to work. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not going to work? she's like, the backlighting, I'm not going to be able to see you against the outdoor light. Everything will be dark and washed out. And I was like, okay, what do we do?
Because the weather report said rain. Like it's going to rain, right?
And to be clear, we picked Barcelona because it has 320 days of sun a year.
Oh.
And it was going to rain this day and this day only.
WTF, right? So our photographer looks at us looks at Amy dead in the eye and is like, I have lived here my whole life. It will not rain. So we were like, okay, let's go. So
Kelly, man, she made things happen.
Yeah. So like literally 20 minutes before the thing begins, Kelly's like, you know, putting the chairs out, making sure everyone can see, making sure. Yeah. So these are all the folks, except for my brother, who's the officiant, who's kind of like to the left of the photographer right now. But basically, this is everyone, and this is right after we broke the cup, right? So there's like you're married, you break the cup, you kiss. This is the kiss. And then there were like, poppers with confetti. It was really, really magical. You can see my friend Oded back there, and a
and you can see Kelly right behind my veil.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, this is just like it for me. Like if I print and frame one photo, it will be this one because this is what mattered to us. Is like these people in this space in that moment, and this guy. So.
Yeah. This. If everything else had gone wrong, the dress ripped, tomato sauce on my suit, like whatever, right? It's raining, doesn't matter. Like this moment is the only important moment of like just being surrounded by the 20 people we love the most, and being able to share that moment. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I can feel the love from this picture and what you were describing before I even talked to y'all, before I even we got on here. Like I could just that's why I put this picture first, because I was like, this is just the epitome. Like you can just see the pure joy, the pure love, the just it just shows everything that you all have been describing this whole entire time of what you were planning for and what you were hoping for. And it was all of the people and all of you coming together and you two coming together. And so I just love this picture because I immediately could see just I don't know, that's just pure joy. So I just love this one. So thank y'all for sharing about this one. And we've got tons more, which I'm so excited about. So we're going to jump through and go ahead and look at another one. Oh, I also did want to say on this one, I could really see the details of your dress too. And I wanted to shout that out because wow, I was like, perfection. You can see from your inspiration to now. I mean, it's just, I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
So this one also was right after our inspiration because I wanted us to talk about it. So tell me about this one.
Oh, I just love how our rings turned out. So I really wanted a photo of those. So that's, from Blake Lively to the custom ring that we ended up with. I stare at it every day. I still love it so much. And that is very cool.
The ring, not the photo.
No, that. Yeah. The Ben's ring is super cool. You should explain.
Yeah. I really enjoy woodworking. I feel connected to wood in a non-spiritual way. And so I thought it'd be really cool if my favorite tree is redwood. And so I got a ring that's made out of redwood and meteorite, basically. So there's a band of meteorite. So it's kind of like earth and sky coming together. I thought that was a really nice motif. It turned out really, really nice.
And Ben's vows were all about cosmic connection. I don't know how else to describe it. The Big Bang was kind of the theory behind his whole what pulled his vows together. So the meteorite is a really cool way to tie that in.
Yeah. This photo was taken a day after the wedding on the streets of Barcelona. Yeah. So we did the tour, the photo tour basically the next day. and this is some alley in I forget. Yeah.
Maybe Gothic Quarter.
Yeah, Gothic Quarter probably next to the big market there. Yeah, that's right.
That's really cool, and that's awesome that you were able to take pictures even after, a day after, so you can enjoy time with your family and friends and all of that, and then go and do some special pictures on the streets of Barcelona. That is so cool.
You can't make it out at all here, but my pocket square is a bunch of hot air balloons.
Oh my gosh, what a special detail. I'll have to see if we can catch that in another picture, because I can see that it's got something on it, but I couldn't see exactly what it was. Wow. Oh my gosh, I love it. The special details. Okay, so here's some more. Tell me about these. I'm guessing that the right one was also that next day when you did that. Okay, so tell me more.
That's the Calle de Bisbee. I can't remember the name of it, but it's also in the Gothic Quarter. You're supposed to walk under the bridge and make a wish, and
there's like a skull,
Yeah, it's just beautiful, and it's so Europe, right? Like you're not finding that in Pittsburgh. So I was like, we're taking a picture here for sure.
To be clear, the streets are empty not because we're special, but because the people in Barcelona are just very accommodating, there are like many people waiting for us to take this photo right behind the photographer, and it can be done. Just ask nicely.
Yeah, they were really kind.
That's amazing. And I love that you can really see that architecture, and like you said, this is not Pittsburgh at all. This is like clearly and that's a really cool thing about being able to go underneath and make a wish. And I think even in the left, now was the left picture, which is of your dress and your veil and your flowers, was that in the villa? Was that taken the day of?
That was the day of in the villa and the bridal suite. And I like that photo because you can see, if you compare it to the inspiration photo, like the dress has completely been remade from like Europe. So that's kind of how it turned out, and I was very happy with it. But that was in the villa just a few minutes before our first look.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So wait, so y'all did a first look as well? Tell me.
We did do a first look. Yeah.
Love it. Tell me, did you are you glad that you did a first look? My husband and I did a first look, so we loved it. But I want to hear what y'all had to think.
So the first look was one of my favorite moments of the day. Is it?
Yeah. I think it's again following this motif of like diffusing the stress bomb. So like self-uniting to diffuse the whole day, and then first look diffuses like any
expectations, worries.
Like when she comes down the aisle, so to speak, it's not the first time I've seen her. We've had our special moment just between us, and we can share that somewhat privately. Yeah.
The first look was magical. Like,
it was amazing.
So we had Ben's cousin and brother's girlfriend doing live music in the courtyard. Our guests were sipping on champagne. They were waiting for us to come down. And they didn't know, but we were behind them 2 floors up on a balcony. So we could see them. They had no idea we were there.
Yeah, actually, if you want to tab back to the kiss photo. Yeah. So if you see the arches, I'm pointing at the screen like it matters. Yeah. If you see the arches, and then you can see in the top right of the photo, there are like a row of trees that start from the right to the left. Right behind, exactly. Right behind those trees is like a little like walkway.
Oh.
And there's a door leading into the second floor, and that's where we were kind of, peeking at like what's going on and having our first look there, and it was like, a little like secret, and like, it was really nice.
We were like singing and playing guitar, and so we danced up there, and it was just the 2 of us, and no one knew.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
We were whispering and laughing and so excited. It was just like, so cool.
I love that. I think first looks can be really, really special, and it definitely can take away some of those like anxiety feelings for sure. If you're like having any worry at all, like that's just like being with your person on your day, like just for that extra time that you get in that first look, and just the 2 of you. I feel like that's so special because a lot of times on your wedding day, it can be like You're with people literally all day long, and you never get a chance to just be together, just the two of you. So that's so special. And you were right above everybody. I mean, how cool is that? Just like your own special little place. That's
It really gives you a chance to appreciate the like full impact, the full beauty, right? Because it's like when they're coming down the aisle, it's like everything is gonna, like you're on a roller coaster that's just about to start going down the hill, because right after that there are like photos that happen, then you go to a reception and this and that, whatever. And so it's like you barely have a moment to, you know, to really absorb the beauty and just that moment. So yeah, I like the idea of a first look. It gives you a chance to really connect.
For sure. Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm definitely team first look. And, I think it works for everybody. It's like we've been saying from the very beginning of this episode, like you got to do what's best for you. So for like listeners out there, if you're like, no, like I have been dreaming of my day forever,
No problem.
do what works best for you. But also if you're somebody who's like, oof, like I'm gonna be a little nervous, or like I want that, like, I want that extra time or whatever it may be, like you got to do what's best for you. And so I think staying true to what you want and need is I think the best thing. Cause I definitely remember whenever we were planning our wedding, like there were people who were like, no, you can't do a first look. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I was like, no, like we're going to do what we do. And staying true to that, I think is what makes it more you. And so definitely, I think you got to do what's going to work for you. That's really special. Okay. And then these two, are these from the second day?
Yep. Yeah. So again, the one on the right is another alley in the Gothic Quarter. And the one on the left is the maze.
Oh, it's a hedge maze. Yeah. It was so cool. Just north of the city.
Yeah, there's like there's like a public park basically, and part of the park is a maze. It's actually very common for people to either get married there or do photos there.
It was packed with engagement and wedding photos.
So like this is not a hidden gem. It's just like a really cool place, to just walk around in general or also take photos.
Yeah. That sounds like something out of a movie to me. Like when I saw these pictures, I was like, wow, this looks like something out of a movie. Like it's just, just gorgeous. I love that.
It helps to have really good photographers. Yeah.
My gosh. They were phenomenal.
And your photographers were based in Barcelona?
Yep.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. They're fantastic. Like that's one of the first questions I asked Kelly actually when I got your pictures. I was like, were her photographers from here or were they from Barcelona? I was like, I just know.
Yeah. Gosh, they spent 8 hours with us on this second
day. They went
day
above and
shooting.
beyond.
And yeah, we didn't plan for that, but they were like, hop in, we'll take you all over. Like it was so cool.
Yeah, I mean, there are benefits to hiring, sourcing local folks. They know the area very well. You're supporting local business. Mm-hmm. It can be cheaper because you don't like have to fly a photographer out and put them up or whatever. And this worked out. Really,
they were awesome.
Really well.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's what I was really excited to hear about, was whether or not like most of your vendors were local or were they like, had you flown people out? Because I know that can be
everyone was local.
All local.
Everyone was
local. Yeah, because I think it comes back to that sort of control thing. Like a lot of brides like, I need to know like all of my people and all, but
that's fair.
Yeah, and so I think that, but like you shared, I think it can bring so much like relief almost of like, I'm gonna like trust the people that are here and be with the people who know this place the very best, that live here and love it, and all of that. So I think that's really special. And your pictures are gorgeous. Oh my gosh, like it just shows.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, these two.
Okay, so the one on the left is another insight into Gaudi's mind. This is La Sagrada Familia, which is a giant cathedral that he designed and obviously is not still alive, and it is not finished and probably won't be finished for an extremely long time. It's actually like, Barcelona is known for its unfinished, cathedral. So it's like almost a staple that like it will never be finished. So there is a pond just in front of it with a absolutely gorgeous view. And it's like a little tip, because a lot of people stand in the street right in front of it, and like you have to get really low to see the whole thing, and you
can't fit it into a frame. It's
yeah,
crazy.
you can get some amazing shots there, but you're battling hordes of people who are trying to do the same thing, and it's just like less known that if you just like literally walk from that main street like backwards, you enter into this area. And yeah, if you just go right there, you can have a relatively unobstructed, like not densely packed, amazing view. And then on the right is our dinner. So right after the wedding, that the kiss photo, we took photos with everyone, right? We did the photo thing, and then we got into a bus that Amy coordinated, and it took us to
this awesome restaurant in Barcelona, and we just had a private dining room. And I think the restaurant had like flowers left over from another event, so they just put them on the table for us. Like that was our centerpiece.
Yep.
And we told people which table to sit at, but we didn't care who sat next to who. And then we did like appetizers with our parents, and then dinner at another table, and then dessert at another table. And there were just 3 tables. And so we spread our time around, and anybody who wanted to make a toast could do that, because we weren't like rushed to get to the dancing. You know, it's like we have this room for 4 hours, like enjoy. Way too much food, but it was amazing food.
Okay, so there are trade-offs with every decision that you make, and one of the trade-offs is when you book a local company in Europe. Let's say that the norms are different, and they're a lot more laid back, and so like we had to make the tough call of well, I'll take a step back. There was a scheduling conflict with the bus company.
The bus taking us home from
the restaurant. And they were like, well, we messed up, and you can either...
It broke down.
You can... No, that's later.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
We messed up, and there is no bus to take you at the time that you wanted. So you can either take a bus like basically an hour and a half after you arrive, or at like 1:30 a.m., right? Which is like 5.5 hours
after the restaurant closed.
Right. So that's the problem. So normally, like whatever, fine, we just hang out, chill. It's like, drink more wine, eat more food. It's totally fine. But 1:30 was a bit after the restaurant was going to close. So we were like, this sucks. And what we have to pick the earlier one. So we arrived there with the expectation that like everybody's got to eat, like let's go, right? Like there's no time for this and that. So I don't know, 20 minutes into the dinner, we get another phone call, and it's like, sorry, your bus broke down, it's not going to be there. And we're like, oh, what do you mean? And they're like, yeah, we can get you at 12 o'clock, right? And so we were like, actually, that's amazing, because it's the restaurant's still open, and now it gives us like a crazy amount of time. But like, there were a few moments where it was like, how the heck are we gonna like pull this off? And like they're just so blasé about it. They're like, well, yeah, this is just how these things go. And we're like, no.
So the event staff at this restaurant did a great job of like prepping the food really fast and then staggering it, because like we had this big change.
Right, because we told them, listen, when we arrive, we only have an hour and a half here. And so like you have to serve the entree like stat, basically. So they had pre-prepared all the food, and then suddenly we were like, JK, we're staying here like 4 hours, no big deal. So then they like staggered it out, and yeah, they did a phenomenal job. We'll share all the details. In case anyone is in Barcelona, you should go to this restaurant anyway.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I feel like now I need to plan a trip to Barcelona. That's what I have determined from all of
We got you.
I have to go. That's amazing. And once again, like great vendors are just the best, because like you never know what's going to happen. You never know when the bus is going to break down and you're actually going to get to leaving at the time you wanted to. Like things work out the way they're supposed to, but also like having great vendors that are willing to like flip and make a change whenever they need. That, I mean, that's just amazing. Wow. Oh my gosh. I love that. And what a story. Jeez.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so this one ties back to our very first inspiration picture. Tell me about it.
Okay, so I wanted to make my own wedding cake, and that is what transpired. So Ben's brother's girlfriend is a professional pastry chef, and like everyone that we invited had something to do with the day, and so she was like, "You and I are going to make the cake," and she was wonderful. So she totally, I didn't even know what flavor it was going to be. I was like, let's make a cake together. And like, I didn't really get to know her until that time. So it was a really cool like moment to like learn more about her. And she's super amazing. So we had a blast making this together. It took 2 days and many hours. And she taught me how to work with like fondant and I think it's like sugar paste to cut out all of the little mosaics. And then we just kind of layered it on and channeled our inner Gaudi, and it was delicious. And it was just so much fun to make my own cake, and you know, of course, it saves you a lot of time. And I got to know this wonderful woman as well, so it was really cool. It was a fun experience.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And as soon as I saw this picture, I was like, wow, like you could see all of your details tying together, all of your inspiration, your pieces. And also like, I just go back to like, anytime I see these pictures, like on your day where they're more like candid, you can just see like the joy radiating out of both of you of just like all of the things that you're feeling and experiencing on this day that you'll never forget. And so I just love pictures like this. They just make my heart so happy because you can just really see it. But that cake is amazing. I did not know that y'all made it. That's so cool.
Custom made.
Yeah, it was really fun. And then, you know, we came back after dinner and everybody like got in their pajamas and stayed up till like 4 a.m. together, like eating the leftovers. It was so much fun.
Now that is what I'm talking about. Like pajamas, eating some leftovers.
Yeah, that smile there is about the cake.
Yeah.
The wedding was an excuse to have this cake.
Yes, for sure. And also, I did want to point out we can see the pocket square now. Now we can actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's just a cool detail. And again, just like all the intentional like planning and thoughts that go into a day like this. I mean, that's just so special. So special. Okay, and I think this is the last one. And I love this picture too. Tell me about it.
Yeah, this is at the restaurant. So, you know, one of the reasons that we chose it, other than it had great reviews, is they have this wall right outside that is like perpetually covered in these gorgeous purple flowers. And it was like right around the right time of day. And so like you really catch the color. And we brought like these really long sparklers that we actually, you know, you can't fly with fireworks. So we had to like buy them locally. And so like I went to pick them up one day with a couple of friends. And so we get there and we light it all. And then we're like, okay, everybody stand in line and like, we're gonna do the thing. And yeah, so, you know, yeah, this was super magical. And then later we had a reception off to the right. Yeah, it was beautiful.
That is, oh my gosh. And you know, I had never even thought that you can't fly with fireworks. That didn't even cross my mind. What another thing to think about if you're planning a destination wedding.
Yeah, it's like, where are we gonna get like, you know, 25 sparklers in
Not
Barcelona?
only that, but the lighters. So I bought them through like Amazon Spain and shipped them to our photographer, and she brought them the day of.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Like that, those are just details I would not have thought of, but then you come across
some challenges.
Fireworks are not as big in Europe as they are in the US. In the US, you're like, what's the problem? Just buy some fireworks.
Right.
It's like not straightforward necessarily.
And the confetti cannons too. You can't fly with those.
That's right. They have like little explosives inside.
I mean, that makes sense, but I just had never
Yeah.
it's all making sense now, but I'm like, wow, that's just something I never would have thought of. But I can see why. Definitely, just as soon as you said this was the restaurant, I was like, oh my gosh, like I did not even realize that this picture was at the restaurant, and this like beautiful like floral wall, and even like I love the like sparkly lights up at the top, and just all of that. It just really brings it all together and just makes it a magical ending. And which you still had your reception and your pajamas and cake, so you had plenty left. But like I just love this as, you know, a lot of people do this as like a farewell as sparklers, but I think just bringing everybody together and getting that big group shot too in this super magical location, that's just, I love it.
Yeah, super fun. There's Kelly right there on the left.
Yes. On to our next question. Vendors. I know we've talked a lot about vendors and sort of where they were and all of that. And I think we've talked a good bit about them, but is there anybody in particular that you want to make sure you give a shout out to, or, and we can just share some of the things too on Instagram, but anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah. The restaurant. If you go to Barcelona, go eat at Can Travi. I'll send you the information. It's incredible. It's authentic, and you just have to go. It's beautiful there.
It's amazing.
You know, everybody like nailed it in Barcelona. Our photographers were Bodadefoto from Barcelona. Hair and makeup artist was incredible. Thank God, because I had no time to change it. She was incredible. So I'll give you her information as well. And actually, I would still recommend the Party Bus Company, even though they gave us some trouble. That was actually our reception. We did like a 45-minute dance party on the way home, and that was it for us. So the party bus was awesome. Here in Pittsburgh, I'll recommend Get Dressed Formals, which is where I bought my dress. The owner there is just fabulous, and if you are a bride going and looking for the dress, she shuts down the store for you, and you just do one-on-one, and you get her full attention. And she has an amazing stock room that's like too big for you to go into. So she's really helpful. And then for alterations, it's just one seamstress, but her business is called Alterations by Netta. And she is the place to go here in Pittsburgh. Just amazing.
I'll shout out Samuel Barron Clothiers, where I got my shirt. They were amazing, very attentive, and super happy with everything there.
Yeah, and I would recommend people staying in our villa, but it was recently sold in Barcelona, so it's now privately owned and can no longer be rented.
Great for that person that bought it, but also like, man, can't rent.
Our hosts were wonderful.
Wonderful.
It was really cool.
That's awesome. Wow. Those are, wonderful. And I will definitely be sure to tag all of those, any that I can find. And if you send me over any information, and I'll put them in YouTube and all of that too. Because we definitely want to shout out all of them, because that is just, we love wonderful vendors. What advice would you give to a new bride or groom to be as they're planning their day? So like, what would be your advice if you could go back and like the very beginning of your engagement? What would be the advice that you give?
Yeah, I can start. I've already mentioned a few. One is shop around, right? Like whatever it is that you're thinking of paying for, unless it's a non-negotiable, like I need it to be this venue, well, then it is what it is. But like your caterer, shop around. Your dresses, shop around, right? Your alterations, shop around. Whatever it might be that there is more than one provider that you're willing to consider, understand like what the financial landscape is before making a decision. The other is scoping things down appropriately. Get very clear, because like scope creep is real, right? So it's like, I thought I wanted this, but like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it was this? Wouldn't it be cool? And then suddenly it's like twice as many things, twice as many balls in the air that you have to juggle. So like, try to identify all the things that, what are your 7 things, right? Maybe your 7 things are 17 things, that's fine. But like, identify them, and then you can kind of divide and conquer. And then probably my final piece of advice will be to turn everything into a fun activity. So like when we, planning a wedding can span the spectrum of fun. It can be like really, it can be a chore, or it can be like delightful, right? Like doing a bracket about where you're going to get married, right? That's super fun. And we decided to try to push everything towards the fun end of the spectrum. So even like little things that had to be kind of ironed out, we would go to like a cidery or a bar or a brewery or something, and just like hang out, bring a laptop, do the work that we need, but then also just incorporate a lot of fun. And we made it really deliberate that we wouldn't like turn it into a chore. So there are always ways that you can make all the mundane stuff like fun. So it de-stresses.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
I think I have one piece of advice, and that is to set your boundaries and stick to them. And that comes in many shades. So like set a boundary with the wedding industry, right? Because Pinterest will sell you everything you can afford to buy and more, right? That's why it's there. It's not just about vision boards, right? They're marketing to you. So like walk away from the Pinterest, like figure out what really, really matters to you and set that boundary and stick to it. Like your budget will thank you, your partner will thank you. And a lot of opinions, external opinions come in when you're planning a wedding, like set your boundaries. This is what it is. We're really excited. I'm glad you're excited too, but this is what it is. I had family members try to invite themselves who were, not invited, which is okay. And I had, some confusion in terms of like what a destination wedding was and what we were doing and should I go or not? And I was like, this is it. Like, I just set the boundary and stick to it. And like the people who are like your people are gonna respect them and they're gonna meet you there. So that's my big thing. And brush up on your Spanish if you're gonna go to Barcelona.
There's an app for that.
There's an app for that.
True. All of that is such great advice for sure. And I think just like speaking to just like keeping with who you are and really just deciding like this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna do it. And I think, y'all are just like a testimony to like keeping things intentional and like really sticking to what you value as a couple. And so I've just loved hearing all about that for sure. There's just so many special things. Last question, and I can't believe we're at the last question because I could talk for hours seriously about it. But what were some of your favorite parts of the day, or like what were the memories that like meant the most that you are gonna like hold on to forever? What were your biggest things, like your biggest takeaways?
I have one.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, we talked about the first look. That was a big one. The second one for me is our ceremony. It was so cool to have everybody mesh together for 10 days before we did the thing, right? Like there were no bride or groom sides. Nobody cared where they sat. Nobody was like introducing themselves. Like everybody was like in it and like here for it. And also because, we didn't have a planner or anything, everyone had a job. So like you four are going to take the confetti cannons. Thank you. You're our DJ. These 7 people are going to come up and do a reading. You're going to fill champagne glasses. Like everyone was like, what can I do? And I was like, I'm glad you asked. I have a job for you. But the readings really blew us away. Like we told people like 30 seconds. And yeah, we were like just something that feels good to say on the day, and people just really blew us away with their thought and their intentionality and their heartfelt sentiments. His brother was our officiant, and it was just so wonderful to be walking toward him. It's like, oh yeah, we got this. Like everything was so comfortable. I didn't feel stressed. I didn't feel like I was on stage. I didn't feel like I was being judged. Like there was none of it because these were our people,
and we were already married.
So yeah, I don't think there was a dry eye in the place. Everybody was just in it with us in that moment, and it was beautiful. We were all sort of united together.
Yeah, and it did not rain.
It did not rain.
Did not rain.
So that was one for me.
Yeah. For me, I really liked the sort of calm before the storm kind of thing. It's not really a storm, right? But it's like whatever. So the wedding was at like 4:35, something
I
like
think
that.
so.
And that meant that the whole morning was like, just kind of mill about, do what you want. And we were in a small town, about 25 minutes north up the coast. And so a bunch of us just like got up and went and found like a little like restaurant off to, in some corner. And we all just sat down and had like a nice breakfast and just, hung out and talked. And it was like really nice because it's like almost surreal because you're just at this like random little cafe restaurant, whatever, ordering sandwiches. And like in 4 hours, you're going to get married and it's going to be like this big, thing. So I really like that contrast of like being able to go from like a low energy state to a really high energy state. And that was really nice. And then I really liked the party bus. I don't know if you've ever like danced on a bus like while it's moving. It is awesome. Like if you have, like anyone who has it, like you ought to experience this. It's like super
Really
fun. It's like champagne being handed around and people were like
The
just
lights are crazy.
it was super duper fun. Yeah.
And we made our own mix, so it sounded like a DJ was mixing music together, but it was just a flash drive.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, so many good memories. I mean, really. And we've talked about so many today. I mean, it's just like clearly there's so much that you could take away from this and that you will never forget for sure. Is there anything else that you want to share or anything that like we haven't mentioned that you want to share?
Ben was raised Jewish. I was raised Catholic, and so, but neither of us is really like practicing either of those things anymore. But it was really cool to kind of like concoct our own ceremony without adhering to like specifically traditions of either one or divorcing all of them completely. We just kind of pulled in the elements that we liked from each one, and because we knew our officiant, it was really cool. He blended them together really well. So that was just like a really cool, like, no rules, do what you want kind of thing, which is sort of the theme. So yeah, I liked how that turned out. That was nice. I would encourage anybody to just like pick and choose what feels right to you. Don't feel like you have to include certain elements just because it's like what you do. Like, do what you want. Yeah, that was, I don't know. That's the only other thing I can think of.
That's awesome. And it just goes to show too, like all of the things, I mean, you really can make it your own. You can and you should, especially when it's your day and it's your memories that'll last forever. You want to make it your own and make it special for you. And you can, there's no rules.
No rules. For sure. And it's also like really important to realize that our perception, the sort of Western American perception of what a wedding is not by accident. It is a carefully thought out, like mastermind plan by the wedding industrial complex to make men and women and whoever feel like they need to get married in a certain way and their wedding day has to look a certain way and it has to include certain things. And honestly, that's just like rubbish because if you hop on a plane and you fly a few hours north or south, they have completely different expectations, right? This is not a fact. This is just a dream that has been like over the last 30, 40 years really honed. They've gotten really good at making sure that your vision of a wedding includes very specific things that they control and they will make money off of. Who's they? It's the like cake vendors and flower vendors and like, you go to a place and you say, hey, I want to throw a party for 50 people. And they'll be like, okay, you can rent this place out for $2,500 for the night or whatever. If you go there and say, hey, I have a wedding, they're going to be like, okay, $10,000, $15,000 and it can be yours, right? And like, well, so it's like they are all the people you can think about who stand to gain money, basically, and attention in case of social media from a very specific view. So it's like, it's okay to break away from that and to challenge those assumptions and to make the experience your own, because it is yours. It's not theirs. They will not be there the next day, and they will not care at all about any decision that you make one day after your wedding. But you will care about it for the rest of your life or for the rest of the marriage. And so it's like, it's really important that you not overly weigh what they think you should care about one day before your wedding.
That's fair. Yeah, just check in with yourself, figure out what matters to you, and execute. Don't get caught up in all the mess.
For sure.
Sure. I mean, really, it's so true. Just set your boundaries, figure out what you want, what you value, and then go for it. And there's no rules. I think that's like if we could put a caption or something on the whole thing, it's like, there are no rules to this wedding thing. You can do what works best for you and what you want. And you should. And so I think that's just really special, just that seeing your day come together in all of its different ways. You can see how like that is just at its core of, we're going to do what is us and not what is expected of us. And it's going to be great. And it was. So I'm really glad that y'all shared that for sure. Well, y'all, I have enjoyed having you on the podcast so much. We could seriously sit here and talk, I think, for probably 2-3 hours. But we will wrap it up. And so I just appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and for being willing to talk and share about your day. And I will be sharing all of the pictures and inspiration and vendors on Instagram and YouTube and Spotify and all of the things. And I'm so excited for everyone to get to see and hear all about your day. But thank y'all so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Sarah. It was so much fun.
This has been Something Borrowed Blue Ridge. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to follow along on YouTube or your favorite podcast service, and we'll see you soon.